organized things, the way you went about things, gave me a very positive vibe about what the future holds for this ministry. What I'd like to share with you is that you're often told that you, the youth, are the future. But please don't wait for the future, because your future is now. Your future is now. I want to encourage you to take up the mantle. Connect to the mission of the Temple of Grace, because your future is now. Interestingly, when I was sent the flyer for the Youth Week celebration, it said, "Arise and shine for a generational impact." And I looked at the writing, and the first thing that crossed my mind was that these spiritual people, they use these big words, throw them around all the time, and you hear some fantastic and fantabulous words. Who thought this thing up? Arise and shine for a generational impact. I began to pick that sentence apart. Arise, they said. What does it mean to arise? In this context, to arise means to begin with a purpose, with a motivation. Arise. So we are no longer youth that are held sway or tossed to and fro by any passing fancy, any passing whim. We are youth that are led by a mission. I spoke to one of your leaders and I asked her, what do you have a slogan? Do you guys have a slogan? And she sent it to me by text, and it said, "Living for Christ." So when we arise, when we say arise, we are rising to live for Christ. As youth in today's world, as youth in today's climate, we are rising to make a difference for Christ. We are in a time when you check the news and it's hard, particularly in London where I live, it's hard to come across a day where there isn't something negative said about young people. They're either stabbing each other, they're either committing crime, they're either committing some social unrest, some social misdemeanor. Literally, you pick up a newspaper, you will find something negative about a young person. But the truth of the matter is that it will take youth to talk to youth. Because when I reflect on when I was young and people ahead of me tried to talk to me, the problem they had was that they spoke a language I did not understand. They made all the sense in the world, but I simply did not understand their language. What I understood better was the language from my peers. It takes youth to communicate with youth. It takes us to form the kind of reference groups that will change our society. It takes us to form the kind of reference groups that will impact our generation in a positive manner. So when we arise with a purpose. We arise with a mission. We arise with a calling. We arise with a sanctification. Because we are not just any kind of youth. We are the youth of the Temple of Grace, and we live for Christ. And when we step forward as youth with a purpose. We step forward as youth with a meaning. I want to encourage you to train yourself to become advocates for the mission of the Temple of Grace. It was quite interesting watching on the screen when our declarations were coming up, and seeing the two young sisters with their beautiful poetry. I like poetry myself. And seeing the time and effort they had put into making those wonderful rhymes within those poetry. But then you realize that behind all that nice and rhythmic sounding poetry, there has been someone's time and effort. And I want to encourage you to put forward that same time and effort to becoming advocates, to becoming champions, to becoming carriers of the mission of the Temple of Grace. Because what the Temple of Grace is going to become tomorrow depends on what you as a youth do today. You are connected to that mission. The mission is your baby. Somebody may have birthed it, but you are going to nourish it and carry it onwards. And in carrying it onwards, you carry it onwards with a responsibility, with a charge to make a generational impact. Because it won't be long before one of you is standing in this same place talking to the next generation the same way I'm talking to you. I looked at the ministration, I looked at the choir, I looked at the dance ministration. What struck me is that it wasn't that long ago when the beautiful young adults I'm seeing here were virtually little children. I'm not going to mention a name, but one of them I actually saw in her nappies. I actually saw that one take her first steps. Today, I'm seeing a young woman. I'm seeing a beautiful young woman. It wasn't that long ago. Time will fly. Time will pass. But the difference that time makes depends on you. So I want to encourage you to see yourself as the chosen generation that you are. If the Temple of Grace is going to make a generational impact, that impact will come from you. Not from our generation. No, we lay the foundations. We build you up. It's our time to move on. I mean, it's interesting. I was looking at my brother today and half of his hair is white. At least he's lucky. He still has some hair. I lost all of mine. It won't be long. It won't be long before we are completely in the background and it is you, our youth, standing in these positions. It is you, our youth, going out there to carry the message of the Temple of Grace. It's going to be you, our youth, going out there to minister to people. And interestingly, whenever I contact young people, I find repeatedly that there's always this question they come up with. They keep asking, what is it? What is in it for me? You're asking me to wake up early, come and pray at dawn. You're asking me to come in the evening for rehearsals. You're asking me to make all these sacrifices. I mean, there's football matches out there. There's parties out there. There's lots of fun out there. You're asking me to leave all of those things and come in here. There was a time someone I worked with was asking me, do your children go to church? I said, yes. And he looked at me and said, why would you let them go to a place where they are being taught some delusions about some guy who lived some 2,000 years ago that they nailed to some cross? Some guy whose own people don't even recognize him. Why would you let him go and be listening to all those delusions? Wouldn't it be better to let him live his life? Go out there and explore what the world has to offer. I looked at him. My answer to him was that I would rather have my children in a place listening to delusions that make them constructive young people than out in the street dealing drugs, than out in the street stabbing people, than out in the street committing crime. But when you ask as a young person, what is in it for me? In this place, in the Temple of Grace, in this place of ministry, your future is being shaped. You are being influenced in a way that you'll never ever be influenced before. There are times in my life when I've been grateful for some of the lessons I learned in my early years of having come to Christ. Because as stubborn as I was back then, some people took the time and the patience to persist with me, and some of those lessons stuck. And when it mattered the most, those lessons made a difference. What is in it for you is your future. What is in it for you is your safety. What is in it for you is your guidance. What is in it for you is your provision. Because divine service attracts divine provision. In serving in your ministry, in engaging in your youth ministry activities, you attract the blessings of them that serve the Lord. You attract the provision of them that serve the Lord. You attract the protection of them that serve the Lord. Even if you think the spiritual is not of benefit, let's look at the physical. Let's look at the practical. Engaging in youth ministry activity is a perfect place to discover your skills and gifts. Many a superstar today started out in a youth church ministry. I was completely astonished when I read the story of Whitney Houston, and I was told that she started by singing in a church choir. You go back one generation, her mother Thelma did the same. You go to the side, her aunt Aretha Franklin did the same. Now, it took engaging in youth ministry for these ladies to discover their talent. And today, years after they've passed away, their name still remains. There are gifts and talents you have that will flourish in a youth ministry. Engaging in youth ministry, moving into youth leadership is a perfect place to learn leadership skills. You are gaining training that some people have to pay an arm and a leg for. Because the skill set you earn here, the abilities you pick up here, they will serve you well as you go along your journey. You will learn to communicate. You will learn to negotiate. You will learn to persist. You will learn to delegate. You will learn to be delegated to. You will learn to carry out instructions. All these skills will serve you well in the long term. So do not think that being in the youth ministry is a waste of time. Do not think that being in the youth ministry is without benefit. Because in here, you are laying a foundation. One that you cannot lay anywhere else. So I encourage you to keep up the diligence. Keep up the faith. Keep up the passion. Keep up the fire. Because it will pay off. It will pay off. And most importantly, commit to the mission of the Temple of Grace. See, I understand. Sometimes when these ministers come and stand up here and they are throwing the scriptures around left, right, and center. They are talking about these big spiritual things they always talk about. Sometimes it can get confusing. Sometimes you can feel a disconnect because they seem to occupy a world that you are not a part of. But the truth of the matter is that that same minister you see on that stage, making all those declarations, making all those statements, was once in the exact same position you were in. You as a youth are no different from the people you see in leadership. They started from exactly where you are now. And there's no better sowing ground, no better training ground, no better preparation ground than youth ministry. You learn to build your network. You see, this game of life, it's an interesting one. Some people you meet today will be in positions tomorrow that you never imagined possible. But yet when you encounter them then, they remember you, and they remember you from youth ministry. Bishop told you he and I were Catholic youths together. There are people I met in my Catholic catechism who are the leaders of my country today. This game of life is a funny one. But in youth ministry, you get a networking opportunity like no other. So do not think you're wasting your time. And keep up the diligence. Because we need to see the Temple of Grace grow. We need to see the temple of grace expand. We need to see our mission reach the four corners of the earth. We need to see our mission reach out. And to do that, we need you. Because there's only so far our generation can carry things. You don't have to go far to see a clear demonstration. When we first moved into these premises, I recall coming to this place and going up to Bishop's office. I'd be laughing and joking with people as I went up these 3 flights of stairs. Today, I clear one level, I have to take a breather. Same building. It wasn't that long ago. What am I saying? Our generation, we're not going to be around here for long. The mission of the Temple of Grace shall be entrusted to you, our young people. We're confident. I mean, we've seen what you've done this week. We've seen the time, the effort, the preparation, the diligence. But what we're asking of you is to take it to the next level. Because, interestingly, in this life, once you achieve a level, it is no longer your potential. It becomes your downline. It is your potential when you are looking at it from a distance, when you are dreaming of accessing, when you are planning to get there. But once you get there, it is no longer your potential, it's your downline. So I want to challenge you today. What you've shown us this week, as wonderful as it is no longer your potential. This is your downline. Because you've shown us you can organize. You've shown us you can plan. You've shown us you can execute. This is no longer your potential. This is your downline. And we ask you to contribute to the growth of this ministry. Now, how will this ministry grow? Church growth has many aspects to it. There's a spiritual side that we leave to the ministers. Yeah, these weird people, we'll leave the growth spiritual side to them. But there's a practical side. And the way to condense it in simple terms is numerical growth. We want to see more people in the Temple of Grace. We want to see our numbers expand. We want to see our branches grow. And I hear you asking, what is my part in this as a young person, as a youth? I mean, I thought the growth of the church is down to Bishop and his cohorts. The weird people, yes. But I tell you, you have an integral part to play in the growth of this ministry. Let's take a step back and look at church growth or ministry growth. In simple terms, how does a ministry grow? 2 things required: attraction, retention. Attraction, get people to come into our ministry. Retention, get them to stay. And that is how we grow. And in these 2 areas, you as our young people have a very important role to play. Let's talk about attraction. Attraction is what happens when we get people interested in dealing with our ministry, in looking at our ministry, in engaging with our ministry. And in that regard, you as our young people are our biggest advert. There is no bigger advert in the Temple of Grace than you, our youth. Because wherever you go, you advertise us. In your actions, in your interactions, in your dealings, you advertise us. And it is interesting when you realize how many tools you have available to carry the message of the Temple of Grace across the world. We're in a world where social media is the primary means of reaching out to audiences. And you as young people have more capability in that regard than our generation is ever going to hope to have. You're out there. You're on the Snapchats, the TikToks, the Facebooks, the God knows, you've got them all. What I want to encourage you is to become an advert for the Temple of Grace. Use these mediums. You can reach other young people more effectively than all our organized evangelism can do. You know the language they speak. You know the challenges they face. You know the questions they need answers to. Tell them about us. Tell them about this home, about this temple, about this place of grace. Because we do have the story, have the testimonies. The Lord has been good to us. His hand has been at work in this ministry in miraculous ways. It is rare for me to engage with Bishop. Every 2-3 months, there's a testimony. Every 2-3 months, something miraculous happens. But who's telling the world about it? No one. Tell our story. Take our message with you. Let people know that when they come in here, they will find a home. Let them know when they come in here, they'll find answers. Let them know when they come in here, they'll find guidance. When they come in here, they will find support. Take our message with you. And in so doing, interact. Mix with other ministries. I want to encourage you to be our intelligence agency. Gather information for us. You know what moves your generation better than we do. If you leave it to us, we'll keep doing the same old thing we've been doing. Because that's what we know. We are weird. It's interesting how this thing goes from generation to generation. Because when I was a teenager, I thought my old man was weird. I thought he absolutely was. And I know for a fact, my boys think I'm weird. But that is the nature of this game. That is absolutely the nature of this game. I remember my old man not understanding why I'd like to read whilst I was eating. Today I see my boys and they are on laptops whilst they are eating. And they think I'm weird. Funny, isn't it? But it's a nature of this game. And no one can talk to your generation like you can. Reach out to your generation. Tell them about us. And most importantly, where you have the skill that you realize we do not have, come to us and teach us.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have learned to learn from you. Your generation are lucky. In my day, you dared not tell an adult what to do. In fact, I discovered a trick. I had an uncle who lived with us at the time, and I discovered a trick with him. Whenever I did something wrong that he scolded me for, or he got me a beating from my dad or something along those lines, I'd wait till the day I saw him doing something that I knew was wrong, and I'll go and interfere. You see, just to show me that I was stupid, he would persist in his wrongdoing, and then he would get his punishment. That's how I got even with him. I told you I was stubborn. I was a handful, I can tell you that. But in my day, our generation of adults would persist in wrongdoing just to show you, the younger one, that they were right, even though sometimes they knew they were absolutely wrong. We've learned from that lesson, so we've learned to listen to you. So where you see things going wrong, because it's actually amazing how very good young people are at detecting when things don't work. We're giving you the channels. Come and talk to us. All I ask for is moderation in the language you use. Don't scold us. Come and talk to us. Because we're every bit as human as you are. If you scold us, our defenses will get up and the whole opportunity will be lost. So we're giving you the channels. Come and talk to us. You see us start on an outreach mission. You see us start on an evangelization. You see us do something. You realize it's not working. Come and tell us. Because you are the best feedback opportunity we have. Because from your feedback, we refine our actions and we become more attractive. And so you have a very key role to play in this game of attraction. Now, how about retention? How about retention? You see, retention begins when people walk through our doors. And first impressions are lasting. And like it or not, you never get a second chance to create a first impression. And when young people walk through our doors, they are looking to see what other young people there are here. They are looking to see whether they'll fit in. They are looking to see whether they'll be welcome. They are looking to see whether they'll find a home here. And the biggest indicator of a home is the relationships between the people that live in it. If I am looking for peace, I will not go to a house where the inhabitants are always quarreling. If I am looking for joy, I will not go to a house where the inhabitants are always moody with long drawn faces. If I am looking for companionship, I will not go into a house where the inhabitants are always loners. Our relationships, how we relate to each other in this house, plays a key part in whether people would want to stay with us or they'd want to leave. I want to encourage you to share the love of Christ. See, whenever things like this used to be told to me, my first reaction would always be to say, these people keep talking, act like Christ, do this like Christ, do this. I mean, the man was perfect. How am I supposed to imitate the man? We're not asking for perfection. We're all human. You're not going to get it perfect. But if your motivation is to be like Christ, if your motivation is to demonstrate Christ, even though you will get it wrong on occasion, the total impact will be a positive one. Let's learn to relate to each other with the love of Christ. There was a song that used to be sung in our day. It was one of these Christian songs. And the words were, we are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. And at a point it says, they will know we are Christians, they will know by our love. That is our biggest selling point. Our relationships. We're young, we'll get things wrong. We're young, we'll do things the wrong way. But even if we have to correct each other, let's do it in the spirit of love. We don't need to cut people down to build them up. People are not trees, they're human. We don't need to criticize people to build them up. No. You know, I realize how pointless criticizing people as a means of correction was. It just doesn't work. What works is love, is positive correction. So you will see your sister stumble. You will see your brother stumble. Reach out to them in love. Because ultimately, they tell you that people might forget what you say. What they never forget is how you make them feel. When people walk through our doors, let's make them feel welcome. When people walk through our doors, let's make them feel like they've come to a home. And that the beauty of a home, the beauty of family, is that we look out for each other. So when I don't see my brother in church for 2-3 weeks, I'm going to reach out to him, find out what's going on. You guys are lucky. you have mobile phones. In our days, you had to travel, go to people's homes to look for them. And even then, it was guesswork. You could get there and the person is not even home. And still, we managed to follow up. You guys have it all. You've got phones, you've got all the means, electronic means of communication. What's preventing us from reaching out to each other? What's preventing us from following up with each other? Because for all you know, your voice is the one voice that will prevent a disaster. The one voice that will prevent a disaster. Many years ago, one gentleman our group always looked up to, he told us about an occasion where things had gone so wrong in his life that he was heading out somewhere with the intention of ending it all. Just as he got to the point where he planned to carry out his action, he met another young person, asked him what that guy was doing there in this lonely, bushy place. And that young guy told him, I'm here because I want to end it all. And he said in that moment, he felt compelled to minister Christ to this young man. By ministering to that young man, he ended up convincing himself not to end things. That voice at that moment saved 2 lives. Reach out. Get to know where your brother is. Get to know where your sister is. Get to know what's going down. Your sister can choose to walk away from the faith. But just let them understand that at any moment you decide to change your mind, we are here for you. You find us waiting for you exactly where you left us. You may walk away from us, but we shall never forget you. Our door is always open. Because I tell you, people come to church looking for answers. They come to church looking for solutions. The primary thing that drew people to Jesus were problems. Few people came to Jesus looking for the kingdom of heaven. I challenge any minister to prove me wrong. Everywhere you saw people crying out for him, from the blind man to the woman with the issue of blood to whatever, they were reaching out because they were looking for solutions. That is what brought them to Christ. That is what brought them to Christ. And that is the same thing that brings them to church. And when they come in here, we need them to understand that this place is a place of solutions. That this place is a place of rest. That this place is a place of recovery. That this place is a place of blessing. We might not be perfect, but we understand your imperfection. And your imperfection will not make us reject you. Because we know where we are from. And we know that the same price that was paid for us is the same price that has been paid for you. We know that when our Father sees you, he sees in you every bit the same things that he sees in us. And that even though you might not think it, we know that you are important to the kingdom. We know that you are important to the temple of grace. And in here, amongst us, you will always find a place. It's been a wonderful youth week. I know time, effort, energy has gone into the youth week. But I want to leave you with 3 things. Because like I said, this is no longer your potential, this is your downline. I want us to build on the downline. I want us to go to this other level, this next level. I want to leave you with 3 things. First thing I want to leave you with is a request. Please put the temple of grace in your prayer schedule. As a young person, I know there's several things you want to pray about. But somewhere in that list, I want you to include the temple of grace. I want you to pray for the ministry. I want you to pray for its leaders. I want you to pray for its members. Include this ministry in your prayer list. The second thing I want you to do is to see every empty seat as a challenge. I watched you online last weekend when it was singles week. And the very first day, it was interesting. Now that I think about it, I see how it's all coming together. The camera had been placed in a completely different angle, and I was looking at the room from Zoom, and I couldn't quite recognize which room was being used. But what I did see were lots of empty seats. And the question in my mind was, why are these seats empty? What is going to be shared here is valuable. What is going to be shared here is a blessing. What is going to be shared here is uplifting. And we know that today's world needs these things. We know that today's youth needs these things. So why are these seats empty? I want to challenge you, young people. See every empty seat as a blessing. It's an opportunity to gain a blessing. You see, it's interesting when all those years ago, and in fact, it is in scripture. You see, there's a problem when you get to my age. You sometimes read these scriptures for so long, you don't know which one is a gospel and which one is a letter. But it's somewhere in that Bible there. It's there somewhere. I tell you, it's there somewhere. And I know it's there. I know it's there. But we are told that when a sinner comes to Christ, there's great rejoicing in heaven. It's somewhere there, isn't it? Yeah, see, I knew. It's somewhere there. Yeah. But we're told that when a sinner comes to Christ, there's great rejoicing in heaven. What I find is often left unsaid is, how about the one that brought the sinner to Christ? If there's rejoicing over the sinner, there shall be even more over the one that brought the sinner in. Because without you, the sinner would not be there. I want you to see this. Bringing souls to Christ is not a pointless job. It's a blessing. It's a blessing that far exceeds the rejoicing in heaven over the soul that has been gained. Because you are the vessel through which that soul has been gained. For every empty seat, see an opportunity for a blessing. Because the Lord shall reward them that take up his mantle. Our God is a true God. We are told that God is not mocked. Whatever a man soweth, that shall he reap. Sow salvation. You will reap blessings like you never imagined possible. Third thing I want to leave you with. I want to leave you with a project. Typical Uncle Ray. I come and I give people work to do. But my young people, I want to leave you with a project. I want you to design a volunteer mission that shall reach out to the young people in Sheffield. You decide what you're going to do. Whether you're going to organize a group that goes about cleaning Sheffield, whether you're going to organize a group that goes about helping in care homes, whether you're going to, I leave you to decide what shape it will take. But the project is to design a volunteer mission that shall enable you to reach out to the young people in Sheffield, to engage them, bring them in. Not everything has to be spiritual. You can come with me to clean the streets, and my relationship with my brother will attract you to my home. You can come with me to take care of elderly people in a care home, and my empathy for them will attract you to my home. Not everything has to be spiritual. But I want you to reach out there. I want you to design a project. Call it what you want. but place it in the community, deliver a service in the community that shall bring young people to engage with us. One of my close friends runs a soup kitchen. And when I had a lot of time on my hands, I used to go and volunteer with him in that soup kitchen. I hope everyone knows what a soup kitchen is. And his area of operation was in Westminster. The first day, he came along and picked me. I said, okay, where are we going? And he said, Westminster. The first thought on my mind is, if you're going to run a soup kitchen, why are you going to one of the wealthiest parts of the city? Are you serious? But I held my peace. We got there, got our things out, spread out our tables, warmed up the food. In the middle of Westminster, there were people queuing up for food. In the middle of Westminster. The number of homeless people in that area completely astonished me. It's the last place you expect to find homeless people. They were there in their numbers. And in running the soup kitchen, it wasn't overly spiritual. It was a soup kitchen. Come share what we have. Come get some sustenance. Come get some warmth. After which we sit down and we talk. We get to know what happens in your world. You get to ask us questions about what happens in our world. You get to ask us why we've left the comfort of our homes to come to a place like this, to come and feed people we absolutely know nothing about. You get to ask us why we put in all this time, this effort, this expense, when there doesn't seem to be any reward. And we get to tell you that the value we place on you is the same value that Christ did. We get to tell you that in giving you what we have, we hope to invite you to a place where you can get what you need. We get to tell you that in communicating with you, in fellowshipping with you, in sweeping up afterwards with you, in cleaning up afterwards with you, we get to remind you that you are from a home, and that home is always open. So I'll leave you with a challenge. A volunteer project, reaching out to young people in the community, designed, run, and operated by the youth of the Temple of Grace. Because you've shown us you can entertain. Thank you very much. That dance was nice. You've shown us you can give us poetry. Those poems are absolutely lovely. You've shown us you can sing. Beautiful voices. Bless you. But all these things are no longer your potential. They are your downline. We're asking you to take things to the next level. Show us that you can bring people through our doors. Show us that you can retain people when they come. Show us that you can carry the message of Christ out there. Show us that you can transform your generation. Show us that you can arise and shine for a generational impact. That when you put up a slogan, it is not just there for being their sake, it is there as a target. It is there with a meaning. It is there with a purpose. So when we see your slogans, we know that we are dealing with a chosen people, a chosen youth, a sanctified youth, a blessed youth, a vibrant youth, the youth of the Temple of Grace. God bless you all.
Thank you for joining our Sunday service. We hope you have been blessed through this service. Make sure to follow us on social media to keep up with our other programs and services. Stay blessed.